Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, Minnesota weather does not get much better than this. After 3 weekends in a row, give or take, of rain and clouds and odd temperatures, this weekend, stunning. Temps in the low to mid 70s both on Saturday and Sunday. People are outside working in their yard for sure today on this third weekend in May of 2023. You know, the weather in the last year or so has been a roller coaster for sure, ups and downs and oddities. But when we have this kind of weather, we enjoy it. We've got a lot to do today. I'm going to just take you through the yard today. We've got a little bit of nipping and tucking and little things here and there that just need some attending to. These are the things that just kind of get away from us when we have a busy life and work is crazy. And well, let's get right to them, okay? So the first tree we're going to work on today is just a little bit of care because it's growing like crazy. So here is the amber maple that my friend Steve and I dug up a couple years ago. And this has been left untouched all spring. And as you can see, it kind of looks like a clump tree now with all kinds of growth. You can barely see the chops unless you're up close. But what's happening to this is what happens every year is we get all kinds of buds down at the base, all the suckers, and these amber maples are crazy busy with growth. So let's get a little closer in the bottom and I'll show you. I'm going to clean this thing up. So we have a great big branch up here coming right out at us, but I'm going to leave that alone because that's about 4 inches off the ground. What I'm worried about is all the stuff down below. There were all kinds of little buds down here this year, all kinds of little suckers. And so we probably can rip them right off, but I'll go ahead and cut them. This one's already pretty thick. This one is thick enough, I might even be able to stick that in the ground for a cutting. This one's off the back side. So these amber maples grow like weeds. They are a bit of an invasive tree. So I believe in some parts of the country, they are no longer in nurseries, or you don't find them as often in nurseries because they're just an invasive species and they just grow like crazy, which is kind of fun for bonsai because we can see results really, really fast. So here we have the tree all pruned up at the bottom, and you can see we've got this lovely canopy of growth right here, a little bit of a gap over here. But the tree is looking good, the tree is healthy, it survived the winter really, really well, and now this one is cleaned up. Now that only took a few moments. I could have scraped these off anytime walking by the garden, but just so many things to do kept me from doing it. So I thought it was a great start today to show you how to clean up that tree, and we'll just let it shoot out for the rest of this summer. Just a few feet over to the right of my amber maple is the maple chop that I did earlier this year. And so in the wintertime, we chopped this guy right here. And of course, the hope was to get all kinds of growth all the way around the ring here, somewhere down here, because this is going to have some dieback. But as you can see, we have a nice push of growth on this side. So there's all the growth. It's all coming from down here in this main branch that was alive. We cut this back too, but we've got a branch coming down here. We've got about 5 or 6 buds coming from right there. We have a strong several branches going on to this secondary branch that was up here by the chop. So now the unfortunate part is there's not a whole lot of growth on this side of the ring, but there is one bud right here by my chopstick. There is one little inkling of a red bud coming out right there, and that's crucial. I want to try to protect that one as best I can. I want that one to shoot out up here. Now we have at least some branches over here, some branches towards the back, and branches on this side. And whether this is the front someday or this stays kind of the front, we will have branches all the way around, and we can kind of tweak it from there and just hope. And as we get more foliage and cut back, we'll have more energy that can be sent down here to get even more branches in the future. But right now, that bud right there has got to go down, or got to get going. But everything's pushing out really, really strong. We've got a great week of weather coming up, a couple days of some rain, so some good rainwater, and hope this thing will push out some new growth. So there's one of the first updates for today. This is the Japanese maple, and it's looking pretty bright and luscious so far. Now over to the left of the first amber maple is the other amber maple, which is huge, my big, thick 5-trunk amber maple. And this is the one that the critters, I don't know which kind, lopped off every single branch that was left on here. But the growth, as you can see, it's become a bush again. And these amber maples are very known to set out all kinds of growth down below those suckers, and it becomes more of a bush. And this was more of a shrub at the side of some people's driveway, and so it wasn't growing as much tree form. So we have some pretty odd shapes here and some pretty ugly scars still, but now with all of the growth down lower, all of these branches here, I can now cut below this really obnoxious knuckle because there's growth down here. We can cut this later this year. This one right here, we can cut down another 6 to 8 inches. This one has a lot of growth right here, but it has a lot of growth right here and growth here. We can cut this one down 6 to 8 inches. And then there's a big one back here that actually has a great big crack down this main trunk, about 8 inches down, but there's still growth up at the top even though it's split. So it just goes to show you can damage a tree and it grows. And here's the split right here where the bark is peeling off. I don't know if you can see that from your angle, but there's a big split there. This one we have to clean up too, and then we'll move on to some other trees. There we have it. All of the lower branches and all the suckers have been trimmed off. You can see a little bit of that base now, and we'll just let everything else shoot on up again. In about another month or so, you will not see probably any of these branches. It'll just be a big old poof of foliage, and we'll pick our branches after that first flush of growth here really hardens off. Then we'll pick a flush. We'll maybe cut it back once this midsummer, and then just let it push out the rest of the year, and so those branches get a little bit thicker. And then we'll really have to protect this one from critters eating it, so I'm going to have to put a fence around this one because they really seem to like it. Let's move on to other trees. Now, I've had several people on comments ask, hey Dave, can you provide some updates to some trees? And this is one of them that a few people have asked in the last month or so. People remembered last year, the last 2 years actually, a couple years, there's this new fungus that's going on with your common lilac bush. And so all the lilacs in my yard seem to be getting this fungus midway through the growing season, and then it just looks really bad by fall. And my tree, my big old clump here, which is a dug up 30-year-old lilac bush tree with all kinds of, I did some work in it with my saw and my Dremel, and created some dead wood, and just to experiment. And this tree sprung to life early, like most of the time it does. And there's even a little bit of growth up here in this one left. But this one right here, everything grew and then just already dried up and fizzled away. Watered no differently than my past history of watering this tree. I just think this tree has been through so much with this fungus that it's just not going to make it. So I think this will end up being in the bonsai graveyard. There is a little bit of life on this one. I'm not a person who sprays with a lot of chemicals. Actually, I don't spray with any chemicals. I use insecticidal soaps and liquid detergent and neem oil and horticulture spray. I've got some BioSafe that I've promoted on this channel before, which is an organic substance that helps with fungal issues and some pest control. I just want to try to stay away from the chemicals. That's just my thing. This tree was free of charge, and yes, I put a lot of effort and work into this one in the last 3 to 4 years, and it's a bummer that it couldn't develop into something, because this branch up here was starting to make this look like it was going to be alive and still a tree. This growth on this side of this tree was going to make this look like it could be a tree. This one was a little hit or miss. Who knows? It's experimental. I love the experiments, and we have a lot of failures with experiments, and I just think this this fungus is a tough deal. So if you go to the University of Minnesota and search up lilac fungus, you'll be able to read up on this article. I'll see if I have the link still of that article. I can put it down below in the description. But look up the University of Minnesota lilac fungus from I think the early 2020 time frame, 2019, 2020. And so I don't know that this one's going to make it. We're not going to put it in the graveyard quite yet, but here's the update. Looking pretty rough. And if I go ahead and snip some of these, we've got a little bit of green in there, so we can see if this shoots up some more growth. That one has some leaves on it still. We'll just cut this back, and if it grows, it grows. If it kicks back some new shoots, we can treat it with some of the products that I have. This one still has some leaves on it, but again, looking really, really weak, but we'll see. So there's the update on the lilac. I do know that they say to treat it, they say to cut the whole hedge down to the ground, kind of like this, and let it grow up and hope for the best. And if it keeps coming back, you just have to dig it out and replace it with a new bush. So not a lot of good prospects for this guy. All right, let's move on. So here's another quick update for you. I got a whole bunch of poplars up from the cabin last year, late in the year, and collected a whole big clumps here and put them in the box here, just hoping we get some survival. My goal someday is to have a poplar forest. I just think the yellow leaves and the flickering of the leaves throughout the year when they come out are just so beautiful. So we have one here, we have one back here, and you'll notice it got chopped way down low, but there's a bud right down there. Couple of buds here, so these are going to take off and do fine. This one has growth way up top, so that's nice. And if it keeps shooting some buds down here, we can go lower and lower. By the end of the year here, I'll probably at least cut this one here for next year. So we'll cut it down almost a third of it off. This one I do believe is a goner, although a lot of times these poplars, right, will shoot up suckers. So like a birch tree, poplars, I think one of the versions of the poplar is that biggest living organism on the planet, and they're just all interconnected down in the roots. So if I have a live tree here, a live tree here, and a live tree here, and any of these are still having any viability in the roots, because when I cut these last, they were green here, so there was some life, and this one is pretty dry up top. But I could get a sucker or two down here. We still could end up with 5 or 6 trees in the end. But I've got some alive. I got another one that's in a pot already. We have almost enough for about a 5 forest, but I'd love a 7, 9, or 11 forest of a poplar. So we'll collect some more trees up at the cabin, my trip up there next time, and we'll keep collecting them and work on this poplar forest. I had promised a couple of video goes that I was going to work on Minnesota Forest number 2. And I was talking about how the Alberta spruce in the back were just budding out, and I'm going to be able to choose my branches and do some pruning. And look at those trees. They're already completely flushed out. So now I could pinch a little bit, or I could make some cutting choices, but you know what? It's a little too late. I wanted to get those before the energy really pushed out to this level. But they're really lush trees. Got a little weak in the middle section there, but we're going to cut off some of those branches that we don't care about, because we want these to be real tall, like almost like an old growth forest. And then these foreground trees kind of take up some of that early view. And when these bud out and got those in the background, I like the contrast, if there is some, of the early light green buds and the regular green colored pine there. So we have a whole bunch of Siberian elms that have absolutely exploded over here, and absolutely exploded over here. Now these get a little bit less sun than the other ones, and they're growing like a weed. So just goes to show you, I've got some Siberian elms at different spots in my garden, a little less sun, and they are absolutely growing super, super fast. So on a refined tree, if I want these to slow down, I'd keep them in the sun more. If I want them to grow crazy a lot and you're in the developmental stage, yeah, we can maybe keep these a little bit more in the shade, and it's promoting all this fantastic growth. So I have a couple of options here. I can let this thing completely grow out, all of these trees, let everything grow out and thicken these branches, or we can cut it back right now, because especially with these elms, they're going to have 2 or 3 flushes of growth that are just going to explode. I think what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to kind of cut up a little bit of those back branches on the pine tree, just to kind of clean that up a little bit. So just a couple of nips and tuck there, I'm fine with that. So I'm going to decide here, this tree back here has a whole bunch of buds all the way down to here. And it's the summer push here, spring push. I'm going to take this middle one out right here. See, we have it splitting into 3 here. I'm going to cut this one off right here. Get rid of that and just shorten this one. That's all I'm going to do with that one. Just shorten that one up a little bit. Now as I come over to this one too, it's a beautiful tree up top, but there's all kinds of buds down below. And there's already a big chop down here, which gave it some subtle movement. We have buds as low as right here, 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 and here. And so I do want to take this one back a little bit. I'll cut that off right there. I think I'm going to cut this one right there because it splits right there. And we'll just let that grow right there. So we'll let this continue to grow up, and we'll see if we get some more back budding on that. This one kind of wants to grow inside towards the Albertas here. This is coming out here and up here. I cut this one out here. Maybe I should have cut this one instead. But it's splitting up real nice up here. There's all kinds of buds all the way up and down. I think I'm going to leave this back one alone. And why don't I just cut the center off here for right now? Let's just leave that right there. We'll let these grow up, get real tall, and we cut them back next time. We'll hopefully get some back budding down in here. Now this is a very, very unique shaped tree over here. We've got 2 branches growing to the left. We'll just cut this section off right here. We're going to cut this off right here and shorten this here. And that one just needed to be trimmed. Growing all kinds of funky ways. I'm going to get this one a little bit shorter back here. So this one again has a nice movement of a tree up here. Then everything grows this way. So I'm just going to shorten that back side over here. Just to promote some more outward growth instead of all this straight up and down. So now we've got a fun tree here, but nothing on the inside, but then we've got the tree back here anyway, so it kind of takes care of that. Take off the height of that one. Yeah, we'll get these guys shooting up some new growth, get that energy flowing again. And if I let those go completely crazy, these branches would all really get thickened up, and I want to pick my branches a little bit more, so that's why I went ahead and pruned this one up a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and cut this one right about here. There we go. Maybe a little lower, right there. So now this one has a growth in the back, it's alive, we'll keep that going. And again, because these are trees that will grow up more suckers, I could get some more trees anywhere around that structure, and we can add some more to this forest. This is really thick all the way up. We've got a nice branch here. I think we're going to promote it to grow more out than up. Just give it some trim here. We got more out than up now. Reduce the height. Reduce the height. This is kind of a delayed version of pinching, if you will. We've got a lot of growth, and again, this Siberian elm is going to do great things. So we have a branch coming out here, which is kind of nice. We have an old stub here. I think what I'll do is I'll cut this off. And this is kind of coming more at us, so I'll cut that off. Branches growing inside towards the trunk. We don't want that. And there we go. We just cleaned that up a little bit. We've got some nice fun movement on that tree, and we'll just see how that one develops. And at the next transplanting of this whole forest, we'll move some of these trees around and get more trees over here. We'll probably add some more trees here. Here's a couple of dead trees right here. We'll get this forest back up and running again. We have plenty of Siberians. We even have some Zelkova that we can add into this forest. So there we go. We cleaned up Minnesota Forest number 2 a little bit on the bottom of the pines. We're going to leave the top alone and just let that first flush just go on out, and that's going to be the flush for the year. Then we can choose some branches later on in the summer or in the fall. These other trees will shoot up way more this summer, and we'll do some more pruning later on those as well. Next up, I have to suit up to fertilize. Let's go back a couple of days and show you what I got in the mail. just got a gift in the mail right here. I need a sprayer, so when I'm going around the yard, if I'm going to put maybe fish emulsion or seaweed extract in water and use that for some fertilizer or even Miracle-Gro, or just watering some plants. If I go out to Bonsai Acres, I've got 4 gallon. This is a 4 gallon. Now, of course, the challenge with 4 gallon is it's 32 pounds of weight. So that's pretty heavy with these thinner straps. We might have to beef up the straps a little bit more so I don't get sore. Or I just fill it up to 2 and 3 gallons at a time. But it's got triple filtration. There's filtration two times inside and right here when you put the water in on top. So it's super nice. This will be a good addition to the bonsai collection here in the backyard and Bonsai Acres. It's so fun to get toys. Okay, this thing is a beast. Let's see if I can get it on me. So this is a 4 gallon waterer, and there's some pros and cons to it. The biggest con, of course, is that it's big. 4 pounds, 8 pounds per gallon. This thing weighs over 32 pounds when you wear it when it's full. So I've got some fertilization in there. I've got a pretty lengthy hose and wand. That's one of the pros. Kind of nice. I have a little bit of control of the spray. They came with a couple different sprays, but usually it's more spray versus mist, and there is one big stream. And so, you know, part of me wishes I had one that would release a little bit more, but the more pressure I put on here, right here at the handle, I can get extra spray. So we've got some fertilizer in here, a little bit of that bluish color. We got some Miracle-Gro right now. So we're gonna go over and get some of our trees. Before I do a heavy watering today, I want a little bit of this Miracle-Gro to just get the roots on this early part of the day. I'll probably water a little bit later on today with some of the plants. But I wanna get some fertilizer on these trees, so let's give it a whirl. So one of the cons of liquid fertilizer, if we're putting it into our watering can or a heavy dose sprayer, the watering can, when you water your trees real heavily with our bonsai soil, that water and the fertilizer is just going to flush right out the pot. So one of the benefits, I think, of using a sprayer like this in my new 4 gallon sprayer, where I can spray a lot more trees without filling up so much, is that I can decide how much water goes in there with the fertilizer. I'm not dousing each pot. I'm just getting the surface real good and wet and having a little bit of that water drip down into that top third of the pot. And so we're gonna have most of the fertilizer from this water stay in the pot today. It's not just gonna flush right through. I like the slower watering method with this sprayer. I think it's going to do really good for my trees when I go ahead and throw in some fish emulsion, some seaweed extract, or some Miracle-Gro, that it's not just going to flush right through the bonsai soil and waste a lot of money. Of course, the con of the slower spray is that it's slower. So you have to take your time with each tree, and of course, the more trees you have, it's going to take a little bit of time. But we have to slow down in bonsai and enjoy the practice, enjoy this beautiful weather, and get the job done the right way. I think that about wraps it up for the trees. 32 pounds, a lot of weight. Got some fertilizer in there, got most of my trees taken care of, so we're in good shape for the day. So I got a couple more things I want to show you on camera, and then I'm just going to enjoy this beautiful Sunday afternoon. So let's go check the hibiscus tree real quick. As you can probably hear, it's a busy day in the neighborhood. The lawnmowers are coming out, the leaf blowers, a lot of people are out and about. So I think I'm going to wrap up the show today with the hibiscus. So here's Jeannie's hibiscus, and we do have our lovely bird over there, still surviving. We have our bottom shoot down here that's doing fine, And we've had a lot of discussion with some of the chats back and forth with the hibiscus, what to do with the tree. We're probably going to air layer it here this summer. Not right now, but a little bit later when we hit June, I think I'll do that. And then I'll cut this tree down below. We'll have this nice movement with this branch right over here. So today though, after having it outside now for a couple of weeks, there's a lot of leaf burn. So we have little bits of leaf burn here from coming outside, the outside transition, you know, mediocre with some of the leaves. But what's really nice, is if you hadn't noticed already, is we have a couple of blooms. So we've got the first bloom right here. There it is in the glorious sunshine. There it is in the shade. We have another bloom right there. So that's going to soak a lot of energy, sap a lot of energy from the tree. But I'm going to leave this one to bloom. I'm going to cut this one off right now. We're going to dry this off, and when these two are both dried up, we're going to make some tea. So we'll let that one go. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of all the leaves that have a little bit of burn on them. Those that don't have burn on them grew out here already. So this is going to be kind of a partial defoliation. We'll let this tree set into shape for being outside now. So there we have a partially defoliated tree. I probably could defoliate the whole entire tree, but we do have some young new leaves that are not burnt, and so I don't have to get rid of all of them. What's nice about the partial and full defoliations is you can certainly see the structure of the tree, and that can make some pruning decisions for you. Now, this is in a state of new growth, so things are pushing out. And it's pretty young new growth, and it's getting used to this warmer weather here. But now we can take a look at this tree, and I can kind of see what should I maybe do with this tree for pruning's sake. Again, we're going to cut this thing down here after a air layer here, and we'll air layer up here. It's not the best tree for air layering, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway for practice of air layering techniques. And then we'll see if we can make this into a tree that's salvageable. It's just got a little bit of reverse taper up here, but a nice branch off this way. We could cut the tree right here and have kind of an angled tree. Either way though, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a couple of cuts. So we're just going to shorten the entire tree up. We've got buds that are back lower that will form more branching. We got a nice 3-4 branch of buds right there, so we're going to cut this one shorter. Got a nice branch coming down here, so we'll cut that one off right there. We're going to leave the birdie on there for a little bit longer. Lots of buds on this one. So really, cutting this one down to size. It's outside now, and it's going to have a big push of growth, and it'll be nice and bushy before too long. So just a quick reduction. We have a branch right here that's next to this solid branch. It's kind of in a weird place. And there's a big chop over here, so I don't know which branch will be better, but this one's coming more at us, if that's going to be even remotely a front. If this is the front, which might be a little bit, it's a nicer look to the tree. Let's cut that off, in fact. Then you see that scar, but I like the movement of this branch better over here, but this is not a bad branch. I'm just going to cut it shorter. I'm going to cut this one here. I think we'll make that decision after we air layer and see if we can keep the health of this tree going. There's a nice branch coming down here, so we could cut this back even further, so I will. I'm going to cut this back further, so this will develop a nice little pad here. This one's kind of going up and in, so I'm going to cut that out. This one's growing inside. I'm going to cut that out. We've got one growing right here at the intersection there of the branches. There's a nice back bud coming back here. We'll leave it alone. Yeah, there's 2 new branches back there. We'll just let those promote that growth. I'm thinking about cutting this big one down here. We have a really thick branch, and we have a nice division there into right here, this branch here. The camera shut off to what I believe is a little overheating. Well, yes, we're getting that warm today. It's glorious. So I put the tree up here in the shade. So there's Jeannie's hibiscus. We've got the Tweety bird still singing loud and proud. And a carnage cam shot for Jay. Hey Jay, hope you're doing well. It is a stunner of a day in Minnesota, and I've got more work to do. Gonna spend as much of it outside. We got neighbors cranking up their electronic devices. It's getting louder in the backyard. So we'll put the camera away for now, but we got a lot to do in a special summer project that I'm this close to starting to show you. Yeah, we'll wait a few more weeks on that, but a lot to do in the meantime. Hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and you know what? We're gonna see you very, very soon on the next one.